So moving right along, we're going to look at task two, some of the assessments for learning when we're talking about the chemistry and physical change lab. So all the students will participate in the lab. During the lab, again, we're selecting groups that are appropriate for the students' needs, and the teacher is circulating to assist all students. But when we're looking at our three specific ELL students, with Lily, she again gets to use her dictionary, her term sheet. So those are always available to her when doing any of the work. And when we're looking at the final product that students are submitting, so the lab discussion questions, Lily is allowed to answer those orally to the teacher. And she can be encouraged to write some simple sentences down, but orally is what she's going to be assessed as. And for Fern, we're looking at her using that term sheet, making sure she's paired with partners. And I do want her now to answer those discussion questions using simple L1 words supported with the L3 science terms that she's already been introduced to. She's allowed to answer her questions in symbols or in sketches or diagrams. And Liu doesn't really require any additional support, with the exception of being put with the supportive partners. So task two, again, another one of the assessments we do during this task is the cell phone element assignment. So students are asked to look at the elements that a cell phone is composed of and express in what percentages they're in, how they're used, where they come from, so what they're extracted to make a cell phone. So sort of it's the background information on making a cell phone. So this task requires a lot of reading and research. So it does require modification for our students. What we do to modify it is limit, for Liu, we would limit it to 3 elements that he has to look up, and otherwise it would be unaltered. So Liu would have basically pretty much the same assignment as the remainder of the students. We would limit it to him looking up only the 3 primary components or elements within a cell phone. For Lily, we'd give her 1 element to look up, and the teacher would assign that element, so it would be copper when it comes to a cell phone, and she would be asked to do the research in her first language. So when she's looking up how much copper there is, how it's extracted, all those processes, she can look those up in her first language, and she's encouraged us to write a couple of sentences in English, again using mostly L1 words with the L3 science terms that she's already been exposed to, and she's allowed to use diagrams to express this, but she is encouraged to do some writing, but we're not really focusing on the reading in English in this one. For Fern, she'd be given 1 element to look up, but we want her to look it up in English. So this would help her with her reading skills. And she's encouraged to write longer answers, so paragraph answers using simple language, L1, but some L2 words in there. And again, using those L3 words that we're already comfortable with. For all of these, they're allowed to use their term sheet to complete it, and if they require additional time, they're given additional time. Most of the students would be handing in this assignment at the end of class. They would be given an additional time or ability to come in over lunch. And again, most of these assignments, as I said, are naturally scaffolded. So if you have students with other disabilities or other learning, not to say ELL is a disability, but saying other students that need accommodations due to disabilities or due to learning issues, then it's easy to morph these assignments and make them bigger or smaller. So your enriched students would be given multiple elements to look at, whereas students who maybe have attention deficit would be given only 1 element to look up. So in the same format, we can make modifications for our ELL students. So another one assessment for learning task that we do during task 2 is the creating molecules using puffballs. And this is an activity that kids do hands-on activity, and it is an individualized activity, but this requires absolutely no modification for any of our students. We might need to read through the instructions for Leili and for Fern, but the instructions would be written in a very simple language, so they'd be encouraged to try to read it on their own, and it just requires them to create the molecules using puffballs, and different puffballs represent different elements, and constructing those together and balancing the equations using those puffballs. So it is really relies on their science knowledge, doesn't require a strong English language proficiency. So now we're moving into task 3. As we talked about, task 3 is now we're looking at exploring the chemical reactions and balancing those chemical reactions in more detail. And this is necessary to be able to address how much carbon dioxide is emitted from different smelting reactions. So students need to learn about the law of conservation of energy, conservation of mass, and apply these laws to balance their chemical equations. So a lot of this this task requires directed instructions from the teacher. So the teacher would try to provide their lessons using definitions which use simple terms as much as possible, and clearly identifying all those level 3 words for all the class, because these are new terms that they're learning. And again, students are encouraged to use their term sheet, write down any words. We're still building that word wall for the whole class to work on. And Leili would be encouraged to use her dictionary or her iPad to build up that vocabulary. She'd be provided notes with simpler English than the ones that are provided on the board, or smaller sentences and broken up, and with visual diagrams or pictures to support the learning. She, like we said, where she has her term sheet that has the Arabic word to support it, and as much as possible, she's being asked to describe her understanding to the teacher orally.